On with the old, and with the even older. Of all the gimmicks to bring back, they chose to bring back the anonymous GM, the most hated GM besides Mike Adamle in WWE history, to actually be in charge of Raw. All I can say is that, hey, Triple H called it. Be careful what you wish for, because we're going to see some random crap for the next few Raws up until TLC. And it's going to be completely out of control. And honestly, it's going to be extremely predictable for John Cena to be the one in power to bring back the Authority. It's only a matter of time when this is going to happen, people. I'm calling it right now. I am. Sorry. And just when we thought that Vinnie Mac, Mr. McMahon, was going to actually come out in the ring and say something, he's pretty much promoting the WWE app as well as the podcast he's going to have with Stone Cold. That's going to be so neutered, it's going to be completely ridiculous to even listen to it. Even though I'm probably going to listen to it anyway, because I am curious on whether or not Stone Cold is going to be hardcore enough to actually talk about the podcast CM Punk did, which I've heard, by the way, and it's actually pinned on my Wrestling Foundation page for those that haven't listened to it. So honestly, I'm probably going to listen to it, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, and I'm going to have my personal thoughts on that if it's good enough to actually talk about. But besides all that, unfortunately, we have no Vinnie Mac segment. We just had like a brief backstage segment pretty much promoting the whole podcast he had with Stone Cold. There really wasn't much to this show. There really wasn't much to talk about except for one thing. I will say this. I am highly impressed with the tag team turmoil. Kind of sort of am. It was actually a pretty good match to watch. And it led up to the #1 contendership for the tag team titles for Mizdow and The Miz at the pay-per-view. Now, I'm not happy with who won, because let's be real, the Usos were the most boring champions of all time. It was great that they held the belts. It was great that they were able to win the belts. Unfortunately, they should have got it at WrestleMania, but they got it on the Raw before. But either or, it was great to actually see them win, but good grief, they held it for so freaking long. It was boring. They were the most boring tag team champions ever, and I'm hoping that they don't win. I'm hoping that Mizdow still holds the belts for a while, because they actually make it interesting. But besides the tag team turmoil, this is my first time, and I know people probably have seen SmackDown. I don't watch SmackDown anymore because it's just pretty much a recap of everything Raw, and I kind of stopped watching it. But I will say that A New Day actually made their debut on SmackDown. So it was my first day. It was my first time witnessing A New Day. I don't like A New Day. I don't. I think the gimmick is stupid. I think it's ridiculous. And I'm tired of these ridiculous stereotypes that people try to get over, especially about African Americans. And now they got a gospel one. Yeah. Either or is stupid. It's sad that these guys have to go to such extremes to get noticed on Raw, when it even shouldn't be the case. But unfortunately, it is. They have to do this in order to get themselves over. And it's just flat out dumb. I don't see it lasting that long. I only see it lasting maybe a few months, and then it'll just die out. Seriously. And the fact is, they weren't even going to be the #1 contenders. They're just out there. They're just out there performing. They had no intention on making them #1 contenders for the belt, and they never were. So this gimmick is going to be worthless enough, and it's going to be embarrassing enough. And I'm unfortunately just I'm counting down the seconds until it crashes and burns. Not that I really want them to. I really want them to be noticed, but not in this way. But besides all that, we end up getting the Usos winning the #1 contendership for the tag titles. Yay! Not that I really care. But I will say it did start kind of an interesting feud between The Miz and Jimmy Uso, when in a backstage segment you got The Miz pretty much saying that, you know, he saw Naomi's video. He thought that she was a great twerker. Honestly, let's be real. He was flirting hard, and he's probably fiending for the booty. That's all I can say about that. But these are two married men, and I'm actually waiting for Maurice to come out and give him a good slap in the face. But unfortunately, we didn't see that either. But we did see one slap done by Jimmy Uso to The Miz, and telling him to stay away from his wife. So we'll just see where it goes from there. But either that, guys, this was a pretty somewhat meh kind of Raw. But I will say that I am highly impressed that they actually are starting to make matches for the pay-per-view, which is something they should have done for Survivor Series and done it better. But unfortunately, they're not doing it for one of the big fours. They're doing it for one of their gimmick pay-per-views, which makes no sense. But they're actually starting making matches for the pay-per-view, so I can't completely hate on them for that. But I will say that it's a pretty interesting card so far. Even though it's 2 matches, it's starting off pretty good. You got Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt, which is a feud that's been pretty heated since Survivor Series and pretty much before Survivor Series. So you know they're going to make it even more interesting when they have their match at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. Then you got Seth Rollins versus John Cena. Now here's the one thing that's interesting for me. They finally put a stipulation on this match with John Cena. John Cena finally has something to lose. And for some reason, Seth Rollins came close to hinting it in the opening segment, but just didn't. I'm like, what are you guys afraid of? Just flat out say it. Seriously, just flat out say exactly how you feel and what's going on. This guy had nothing to lose, but he has something to lose at this pay-per-view. He's actually, if he actually loses the match between if he actually loses to Seth Rollins, he is going to lose #1 contendership with Brock Lesnar for the title, which is something that should have happened at Survivor Series, but hey, they're trying to make it up to us and actually have him lose, have him have something to lose for this pay-per-view. So I'm like, okay, let's see where it goes from here. I'm wondering what they're going to do with Seth Rollins. More than likely, it's going to probably be the Money in the Bank briefcase. I'm hoping that's going to be the case. But we end up for the main event having a 6-man tag. I didn't really much care for that because I kind of knew what's going to happen, and of course the face is going to be on top. And then we end up having a Divas match, actually having AJ Lee and the Chosen Naomi versus the Bella Twins. I really didn't care, but I will say this: Nikki is pretty much the most interesting Divas champion I have ever seen. She's way more interesting than AJ Lee, because the one thing that made AJ Lee interesting was the guy on her arm. But then she had that whole crazy thing, which kind of made it somewhat interesting, but it only worked when it came with a dude. It didn't really work so much with the chicks. It's not so much Alicia Fox-worthy, because Alicia Fox does that whole crazy black chick gimmick. But besides all that, you end up having Nikki Bella, who's the newly crowned champion, tap out to the Black Widow. Yeah, I would actually love to see Nikki Bella break the Black Widow, because that chick is strong. I would love for her to be maybe the 3rd diva that actually break the Black Widow. Because so far there are 3 divas that can break it. There's Natalya, there is Caitlyn, and then there's Paige. They're the only 3 that can break it. I would love to see Nikki be the 4th. And I'm hoping that she's going to pull out all stops on this pay-per-view to defend her title. Because there's a huge amount of rumors that AJ Lee is going to be leaving. And I wouldn't be surprised that after this CM Punk podcast is pretty much gearing on her to actually be walking out soon. I thought she was going to be not coming back at all for tonight. But she ended up having a match between her and Nikki. So either or, she's going to be there for a while. So I'm doubting that she's going to get the title back. But regardless, it really was that great of a match. Even with Naomi being in it and being the chosen person, I just don't see it being that great of a match. Plus, the one thing that really makes me sad is that we all know that Naomi is not a great talker. So I don't think that she's going to be a champ anytime soon unless she tries to figure out her voice. Seriously, if she can figure out a way to talk and a way to promote herself, then maybe she might be championship material. But seeing her backstage with absolutely no dialogue towards The Miz is just flat out sad. So I really don't see... I'm really curious to see how the whole feud between The Miz and the Usos pan out with her being a complete mute. But either or, guys, my overall thoughts of this Raw was this. It was meh at best. It really wasn't anything completely interesting to watch. But I will say this. At least they're doing something for their pay-per-view. And so far, the matches are actually pretty good. So I'm looking forward to watching the pay-per-view, because I think it's going to actually be done well. But as for the Raw, they need to do a little bit better with promotion. But that's just me, personally. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment in the comment section below or send a video response on your personal feelings towards this Raw tonight. And also let me know if you're going to be watching the podcast, because I just might do it just to hear exactly what's going to be going on, but I'm going to probably watch it the next day. But either or, guys, I'm done for the night and I am going to bed. It's Nature Girl 30 signing off. Peace out. Later.